Hello, and welcome to part 3 of our 3-part series, introducing Neuwirth Associates Consulting. I'm Hope Katz-Gibbs, proud producer of Pete's show. This is Peter Neuwirth, FSA, FCA, an actuary and author, and Barry Sachs, a J.D. and Ph.D., and they are a wealth of information. Part 3, they'll be talking about silver divorce. So over to you, gentlemen.
Okay, well, thanks a lot. And yeah, I mean, we've been talking about where Barry and I how we came together to form Neuwirth Associates Consulting, and we talked about how the core started and still to some degree is our work on the risks of decumulation and how to develop an effective retirement income strategy. But we've developed another interesting and we think very significant value-added consulting service to couples who are getting divorced in their later years. And it arose in a kind of a funny way. And it came about because Barry got to know another one of our partners, Mary Jo LaFay, a long time ago, and I guess at the time she was originating reverse mortgages, and got to know you during one of your research expeditions. And Mary Jo, I guess, and Barry developed a way of using reverse mortgages to facilitate divorce, and that has sort of led inexorably to a broader consulting offering that we now provide to couples and family lawyers and those forensic accountants and others who work with couples who are divorcing at a later age when they have complicated assets and real estate. So maybe you can share a little bit of that story.
I mean, it started off way back when I first thought about the idea of the buffer asset being real estate, and the best way of accessing it was through a reverse mortgage, because that doesn't require any cash outflow to pay it back while people are still living in the house. So I came across Mary Jo through a mutual friend, and she was able to help me understand the mechanics of reverse mortgages. She's really very adept with the specific details, the numbers, the uses, and so forth. And she thought of the idea of using a reverse mortgage as a way of enabling people who are divorcing to divvy up, for example, the house. Let's take the simplest example of two people who are divorcing. One of them wants to keep the house. The house is owned free and clear, and there's certainly not enough money in spare cash for the one who wants to keep the house to buy out the interest of the other. So the one who wants to keep the house gets a reverse mortgage and pays the departing party, and that's it. And we included this in presentations that began with the decumulation stuff and then became other uses for reverse mortgages. And that became something that we presented all over the place. Meanwhile, Pete and I were working together on the decumulation issue, and somehow the notion of merging the two popped up.
I can remember exactly when. I have to say, I was a little bit envious of some of these wonderful speaking gigs that Barry had to places like these Association of Divorce Planners and so forth, all about using reverse mortgages to facilitate divorce. And I looked at that and I said, there's a pension aspect to this too. I mean, because you're talking about retirement income after divorce, where you're now talking about using the reverse mortgage in various ways. And I said, well, pensions are really important in divorce. And one of the things that people, don't understand is, or they may have heard the word quadro, and how, oh, well, that's easy. If you're getting divorced and you have a pension, you just have a quadro, which is a qualified domestic relations order. Unfortunately, it's not that simple, as most things in actuarial science are not quite as simple as they might sound. And so I suggested to Barry that maybe I could, edge in, and maybe you could carve out a few slides for me to talk about some of the actuarial aspects of these retirement income strategies, and that involved a divorce and a reverse mortgage. And let's build in the splitting of the pension, because splitting a pension, even if it's a 401k, is not very simple. And it's got a lot of actuarial considerations that are very, very rarely considered by family lawyers. And so Barry was open to that. And so we incorporated, probably added maybe a third or thereabouts to his normal approach to how to facilitate silver divorce. And then we've come to find that it's not just quadros. It's not just how do you split up a complicated defined benefit plan, but there are other assets that are present in divorces that are also complicated. Life insurance policies, for example, are, if you have a life insurance policy that's got a high cash value, how is that treated in divorce? To what sense is it split, or what is the actuarial value of that life insurance policy? What's the value of various non-qualified annuities, variable annuities? What about charitable gifts? How do you value those? So there's actuarial aspects on a lot of the assets, the complicated assets that many couples have accumulated over many years. And so what Barry and I have now done is we've converted those, slide decks and those talks into what we believe is a pretty effective consulting offering to family lawyers, divorce planners, forensic accountants, mediators, and others who are working with couples getting divorced who don't want to go through a knockdown, drag out court fight and have a judge who doesn't necessarily understand all of the complexities rule on things that they don't. And instead, what Barry and I have in our silver divorce consulting practice is a way of going in and looking at a divorcing couple's assets, their marital balance sheet, and working with, whether it's the family lawyer or the mediator or the forensic accountant or the CFP or the financial planner involved, maybe the CPA, to just come up with a rational, financially and tax efficient way of dividing out the pie in a way that leaves both spouses with the wherewithal to live the rest of their lives in a reasonable way.
Right, exactly. And the important thing to recognize in this mix is the relevance where there isn't enough liquid asset is the use of a reverse mortgage, so that, for example, if one of them wants to buy a house, and in fact, one of the recommendations that we make is people shouldn't become renters when they're older, because there's nothing more disruptive in life than being forced to move. If the landlord raises the rent or says, I want it for my son-in-law and daughter or whatever. So the notion that they should be able to buy a house or some condo, whatever it is, so that they can feel settled in older years, the source of enough cash for that may not be among the assets that they have, but a reverse mortgage, they call them, it's a fancy term, H4P, which is HECM, which is the name of one kind of reverse mortgage for purchase. And people can obtain these and then settle into a life that is more stable, more settled, more comfortable than having the risk, again, to return to that word, the risk of a later disruption by a landlord who, there's nothing worse than being 80 or 85 years old and having the landlord say, sorry, I need this place, or sorry, I'm upping the rent 40%, whatever it is. So
Right.
there's that factor built into the analysis that we present to the various professionals.
Right, but fundamentally, I guess the way we look at and think about our consulting in this area is that you've got a CFP, you've got a certified financial planner, you've got various advisors to a couple, and they're all advising the couple on how to build and maintain their financial house. Think of them as kind of the general contractor who's building a house that this couple is going to live in for the rest of their lives. Well, when divorce happens, basically you have to demo that house. You have to take apart that house and then build two different houses. Now, if you're going to be doing a big demo and renovation, the general contractor is going to need subcontractors who are expert. And that's what Barry and I consider ourselves. We consider ourselves subcontractors in this demo and renovation project, which is a divorce, where you are taking apart the house, the financial world that the couple has built and planned for, and repurposing and reconstructing two separate plans, financial plans. And we can help because, I'm an expert, like when you hire a subcontractor, you want to make sure they're really good at what they do. Well, I'm pretty good at pensions and actuarial aspects, and Barry is terrific at tax law and also reverse mortgages. And we also bring in other experts as needed. And Mary Jo is again one of the partners who we tap into when we are doing these sorts of projects. And so, again, it's a business that we really weren't intending to get into, but we've seen this huge demand. I mean, it's just unbelievable. As soon as we've sort of put it out there, everybody and their brother is calling and saying, hey, is it really possible to get divorced and both of us live comfortably? And the answer is maybe, depends.
Yeah, I mean, certainly it can be done as well as possible rather than helter-skelter. And it's important to recognize that the age group over 55 is the only age cohort where the divorce rate is increasing. All the people younger than that, their divorce rate is decreasing, probably because fewer of them marry at all. But people older grew up and were young and sprightly at a time when the pressure to marry was so strong that many people married not well, and ultimately, as they've grown older, realized that it's better off not together than together.
Well, and I guess that is sort of brings up the last point I would leave here with, which is that we're specialists. I mean, that we don't want to make any bones about it. We're not generalists. We are specialists that are expert in a particular problems. But those problems, when you've got an older couple who doesn't have custody issues, who have been married for a long time, but maybe not as long as the pension accrued, or maybe, and certainly not as long as the house has been in one or the other's name, then you need a specialist.
Exactly. I agree. I think it's just to make a terrible metaphor with your contractor image. You certainly don't want to have the plumber design and install your electricity,
right?
But you do want the plumber to do the plumbing, and likewise you want the electrician to do the electricity, and the general contractor should have a feeling for who's good at what.
Right.
And that's our message to people who function as general contractors in this image, this metaphor, which is that we do have a specialty or a small, narrowly defined set of specialties that can help a lot. And it's in the financial world, which is really where silver divorce, where the silver divorce rubber meets the road,
Right.
to mix metaphors terribly once again.
Okay, and I guess
Excellent.
that's it.
Thank you so much. Tons of fantastic information, even more on NeuwirthAssociates.consulting. That you are listening tonight to part 3 of our series on what Barry Sachs and Peter Neuwirth can do to assist organizations who are going through all these changes in this part of their lives. I'm Hope Katz-Gibbs, proud producer of this series. Thank you, Barry. Thank you, Pete. And we will talk to you again on the upcoming episodes of Silver Divorce and Money Mountaineering. Again, check out NeuwirthAssociates.consulting. We'll talk to you soon.